There was a time when you thought life was punishing you. Every door closed, every voice went silent, every dream you held turned into dust in your hands. You looked up and asked, "Why me?" But what you didn't know, what life never told you, is that every ounce of pain you felt was not a punishment. It was a preparation. Pain is not life's way of destroying you. It's life's way of rebuilding you, piece by piece, into something stronger, sharper, and truer than before. When you can't see it when you're in the storm, but the storm is forging you, removing what's weak, revealing what's real. Think about it. You never grew when things were easy. You grew when everything went wrong. You grew when your heart broke, when your faith cracked, when your comfort vanished. That's when the real version of you started to form, not the one shaped by approval or success, but the one born from fire. You see, pain has purpose. It shows you who you really are when the masks fall off. It burns away illusions and leaves only truth. And truth, though it hurts, sets you free. You thought the world was against you, but it was actually working through you. Every betrayal, every rejection, every sleepless night was a divine sculptor's hand, chiseling your character, teaching your soul what strength really means. There comes a point when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start whispering, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift, that single thought, changes everything. Because the moment you see meaning in your pain, it stops being suffering. It becomes transformation. It becomes transformation. And that's the secret life hides in the darkness. The deeper the pain, the greater the purpose it's preparing you for. The people who left were never meant to walk into your next chapter. The plans that failed were never built to carry the weight of your destiny. The versions of you that crumbled had to, so that something wiser could emerge. There is no wasted agony, no meaningless heartbreak. Every wound taught you to see, to feel, to understand, and to rise. You have been tempered by life, not broken by it. So when you look back, don't curse your past. Thank it. Because every scar on your heart is a reminder that you survived the very thing that was meant to end you. And that survival, that resilience, is your proof that the pain was never punishment. It was the preparation for the life you were meant to lead. You were meant to lead. Pain isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's the teacher life sends when we're ready to grow. When life takes everything away, it isn't being cruel. It's removing the illusions we built around comfort and control. You see, the universe doesn't teach through luxury. It teaches through loss, through discomfort, through the cracks in our carefully built worlds. Pain forces you to confront the truth about yourself, the parts you ignored, the habits you refused to change, the people you held on to long after they stopped walking with you. It pushes you into corners you would never have entered willingly, corners where you either collapse or evolve. And evolution doesn't happen in safety, it happens in fire. Think back to the moments that shaped you most. Not the celebrations, not the easy days, but the nights when you were alone with your thoughts, trembling, uncertain, questioning whether you could keep going. That's where growth hides. In the trembling, in the silence, in the heartbreak. Pain strips away the noise. It takes the things that distract you and leaves only the essentials. Your will, your patience, your heart. When everything external falls apart, what's left is the inner foundation you never knew existed. You start seeing that strength isn't about pretending to be unhurt. It's about staying gentle when the world gives you every reason to become bitter. Every lesson pain teaches comes wrapped in confusion at first. You don't understand it while you're in it. It feels unfair, personal, almost cruel. And first cruel. But pain is not here to destroy you. It's here to refine you. Just like heat purifies gold, struggle purifies the human spirit. You learn endurance, empathy, humility. You learn to listen more, to judge less, to forgive faster. forgive faster. And that's how the teacher called pain works. It teaches through breaking what's false and revealing what's real. Pain has a strange wisdom. It whispers things comfort can never say. It reminds you that nothing truly valuable can be lost, only transformed. Must it? When you lose people, maybe you're meant to find yourself. When you lose certainty, maybe you're meant to discover faith. And when you lose peace, maybe you're being called to create it within you, not wait for someone else to bring it. The more you understand this, the less you resist the process. You resist the process. Because resistance keeps you trapped in fear, while acceptance turns your suffering into strength. The truth is, pain arrives when you've outgrown an old version of yourself. Sahalf. It tears away what no longer fits. The relationships, the routines, the beliefs that once kept you safe but now hold you back. And as hard as it is to accept, pain is the universe's most direct way of saying, it's time to change. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Every wound is a doorway to wisdom. Every tear, a step closer to clarity. The very things that made you question your worth are the same forces shaping your purpose. You're not being destroyed. You're being rewritten. Every setback carries hidden instructions for your transformation. It's never just an obstacle. It's a coded message from life itself guiding you toward what you're meant to become. When something falls apart, it's easy to focus on the pieces scattered at your feet, to feel like the story has ended there. But every failure is actually a blueprint in disguise, a lesson written in invisible ink that only patience and reflection can reveal. The problem is, most people walk away too soon. They run from pain before it finishes its work. But the truth is, your greatest transformation always begins at the exact point where everything seems to collapse. Setbacks are not signs of weakness, they are checkpoints of growth. Life is a master architect. It doesn't demolish without purpose. When the walls of your comfort zone crumble, it's because they were never strong enough to hold the person you're becoming. Every disappointment is a form of redirection, a quiet way of saying, not this way. Try again, but wiser. The lessons inside failure are often harsh, but they are also precise. They cut away the illusions of control, the arrogance of certainty, the false confidence built on external validation. You're being invited to rebuild, but this time on a foundation that cannot be shaken. Transformation doesn't begin with victory. It begins with surrender. The moment you stop fighting what went wrong and start asking what it came to teach, everything changes. You start seeing patterns in your pain, threads connecting one trial to another, and suddenly the chaos begins to make sense. What once looked like punishment reveals itself as preparation for a greater purpose you couldn't see before. You realize that the people who doubted you, the moments that humiliated you, the seasons that broke you, they were all training grounds for your future resilience. There is a strange grace hidden inside failure. It humbles you just enough to make room for wisdom. It strips you of pride so that you can rebuild with clarity. You learn to listen more deeply to your intuition, to trust timing, to release your obsession with perfection. And as you evolve, you begin to see that every no was steering you toward a better yes. The delay was never denial. It was alignment. You were never losing time. You were gathering strength. Every setback comes carrying a seed of transformation, but you have to plant it through reflection, nurture it with patience, and protect it with faith. The instructions are always there. You just have to be still enough to read them. Endurance builds wisdom. Suffering awakens purpose. The moments that stretch you beyond your limit are the ones that reveal how deep your strength truly runs. Every time you endure instead of escaping, you gather something precious: clarity, empathy, resilience, understanding. Wisdom isn't born in comfort. It's born in the waiting, in the breaking, in the long nights where you keep moving forward even when you can't see the end. It's the kind of wisdom that can't be taught in words. It has to be lived, felt, and carried like a scar that glows instead of bleeds. When life tests you, it isn't trying to crush you. It's trying to awaken something dormant inside you. Suffering has a strange way of sharpening your vision. When everything you relied on falls away, you're forced to look inward, to question what truly matters and what was only noise. You start noticing the things you once took for granted, the quiet moments, the people who stayed, the strength you never realized you had. Strength you never realized you had. Each struggle leaves behind fragments of truth, and when you put them together, you start to see a new picture of yourself, clearer and more complete. The purpose hidden in suffering is often invisible at first. You don't realize you're being shaped until much later, when you can finally look back and see the pattern. That's the beauty of endurance. It gives pain enough time to make sense. Every time you refuse to give up, you're rewriting your story. You're proving that pain cannot define you. It can only refine you. Through endurance, you gain perspective. Through suffering, you gain purpose. The things that once made you question your worth eventually become the reasons you understand it. Suffering teaches you compassion, because when you've walked through fire, you no longer judge the burns on others. You start seeing people differently, less through their actions and more through their pain. You recognize struggle in their eyes because you've seen it in your own. That understanding is the seed of wisdom. It softens your anger, quiets your pride, and fills your heart with patience. Endurance transforms not just your strength, but your soul. It teaches you that peace is not the absence of suffering, but the mastery of it. Every time you endure what you thought would destroy you, you rise a little wiser, a little calmer, a little more certain of who you are. And that is the quiet gift of pain. It doesn't just build strength, it builds meaning. You are being shaped, not shattered. It may feel like everything is collapsing around you, like the weight of the world has singled you out to break you apart. But in truth, every pressure you face is sculpting you into something stronger, something clearer, something more aligned with who you're meant to be. Growth is rarely gentle. Growth is rarely gentle. It's not a calm breeze. It's a storm that tears away what's weak so what's real can stand. You can't become unbreakable without first being tested. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every rejection is a hammer in the hand of destiny, striking away the excess that hides your true form. When life starts dismantling your comfort, it's easy to confuse shaping with shattering. You mistake the chiseling for destruction, the loss for failure. But what's happening beneath the surface is refinement. Just as a sculptor sees the statue inside the marble, life sees the masterpiece within you. The blows don't destroy the stone. They reveal what was hidden inside it all along. The same is true for your spirit. You're being carved into clarity, not crushed into dust. What you call breaking is really transformation in progress. It's in the struggle that your edges are softened, your purpose is clarified, and your strength is proven. You start to notice that the things you thought were lost were never meant to stay. The friendships that fell apart, the plans that failed, the dreams that dissolved, each one was making space for something deeper, more authentic. Sometimes what feels like falling apart is really falling into alignment. You're being reshaped to hold the life that's waiting for you, a life your old form could never have contained. Pain has a way of sanding down the ego. It removes the arrogance that whispers you should have control over everything. Over everything. When you surrender to the process instead of resisting it, you begin to see the wisdom in every wound. You stop asking, why me? And start realizing, and maybe this is exactly what I needed to become who I'm supposed to be. You begin to understand that life doesn't break what's weak, it breaks what's false. The parts of you that were built on fear, on pride, on dependency, those are the parts being stripped away so the real you can emerge, steady and unshakable. You are not the same person you were before the struggle, and that's the point. You're being reshaped into someone who can carry more truth, more peace, more purpose. You're not being shattered. You're being sculpted into strength. The people who broke you were instruments of your evolution. It's hard to see it while you're still bleeding from their actions, while your mind replays every betrayal, every word that cut deeper than it should have. But time reveals something strange about pain. It often comes through people who were never meant to stay, yet they serve the most important role of all. They become the catalyst of your awakening. Every person who hurt you forced you to look inward, to stop relying on their validation, to build something unshakable within yourself. What they took from you made space for what life wanted to give you instead. You may think they broke you, but in truth, they exposed what needed healing. They held up a mirror to the parts of you that were still seeking approval, still afraid of being alone, still defining your worth through someone else's eyes. Their betrayal wasn't the end of your story. It was the moment you started writing it yourself. The pain they caused cracked the surface of who you thought you were and allowed the real you to emerge, the version that doesn't beg to be seen because it already knows its value. Life often uses people as tools for transformation. Some enter your world to love you, others to challenge you, and a few to break you open so you can finally see what you're made of. Those who disappointed you were unknowingly helping you discover your boundaries, your self-respect, your strength. They were chapters, not the whole book. And when their part in your story ended, it wasn't failure, it was completion. You had learned what you needed to learn. You outgrew what their presence represented. When you reach the point where you can look back at those who hurt you and feel gratitude instead of resentment, that's when you know you've evolved. Not because what they did was right, but because you turned their damage into wisdom. You took what was meant to break you and turned it into fuel. The lessons you carry now aren't theoretical. They're carved into your heart, etched by experience. The people who broke you unknowingly pushed you closer to yourself. They stripped away illusions, burned bridges that led nowhere, and forced you to stand in your own power. In doing so, they completed their purpose in your journey. You don't owe them hate or revenge. You owe yourself peace. Because in the end, they were never your destruction. They were the fire that revealed your strength. True strength is silent. It grows when no one is watching. The loudest storms of transformation happen behind closed doors, in the moments no one will ever see or celebrate. Strength doesn't announce itself. It builds quietly in the background while the world thinks you've fallen apart. It's in the mornings you drag yourself out of bed when your heart feels heavy. In the nights you whisper hope into your own ears because no one else is around to do it for you. That's where the foundation of resilience is laid, not in applause but in solitude. It's not forged in public victories but in private battles. The people who appear strong on the outside often crumble when life shakes their image. But the ones who seem quiet, who keep going despite the pain, who hold their composure when everything inside them is breaking, that's where true power lives. It's not loud. It's not boastful. It's calm, consistent, and steady. It's the kind of strength that doesn't depend on recognition, because it was never about proving anything to anyone. When you suffer in silence, you learn patience. You learn patience. You learn to trust the slow pace of healing, the invisible progress that no one else can see. You stop chasing validation because endurance becomes its own reward. You begin to understand that life doesn't owe you witnesses. It gives you moments to witness yourself. You realize that every silent victory counts, even if no one claps for it. The quiet strength you build in these unseen hours becomes your armor, protecting you when the next wave of life arrives. True strength is not in pretending to be fine, it's in facing your pain without performing it. It's choosing grace over bitterness, peace over attention, growth over sympathy. It's walking through the fire and emerging softer, not harder, because gentleness after everything you've endured is the greatest power of all. The world glorifies visible success, but life values silent perseverance. It's the strength that doesn't shout, "Oh, look at me," but whispers, "I'm still here." And maybe that's what makes it so sacred. Silent strength doesn't demand to be seen. It simply exists, steady as breath, unshaken by storms, unbothered by judgment. It's the quiet conviction that no matter what happens, you will rise again, not to prove a point, but because that's just who you've become. When you stop resisting pain, it becomes your greatest ally in becoming who you're meant to be. The moment you stop fighting against what hurts and start listening to it, something inside you changes. Resistance is what keeps pain alive. It feeds on denial, on the belief that life should be easy, predictable, kind. But the truth is, life was never designed to be painless. It was designed to be meaningful, and meaning often comes wrapped in discomfort. When you finally surrender not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of acceptance, you begin to see that pain isn't an enemy, it's a messenger. It's trying to show you what needs healing, what needs changing, what needs to be released. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. As long as you run from pain, it will chase you. As long as you bury it, it will find new ways to surface. But when you turn toward it, when you sit in its presence without judgment, something miraculous happens. Pain starts to lose its sharpness. It stops being chaos and starts becoming clarity. You begin to see that the moments that broke you were actually teaching you emotional truth, teaching you patience, compassion, humility, and depth. The weight you've been carrying starts to transform, not because it disappears, but because you finally understand its purpose. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what happened. It means you stop letting it define you. You stop replaying old stories of a why me and start asking, what now? You start taking responsibility for your healing instead of waiting for time or others to do it for you. And that's when pain changes shape. It becomes a teacher, a guide, a sculptor of your inner strength. Every tear becomes a form of release. Every scar becomes a mark of wisdom. You realize that pain didn't come to imprison you. It came to free you from the illusions that kept you small. When you stop resisting pain, you stop fearing life itself. You become open to every experience, every lesson, every transformation waiting inside the next storm. You begin to see beauty even in the breaking, because you understand that everything that hurts is also helping you evolve. Is also helping you evolve. The very weight that once crushed you becomes the anchor that keeps you grounded. Pain no longer defines your suffering. It defines your strength. And in that acceptance, you finally become unstoppable.